In order to defeat Trump, we are going to need the largest voter turnout in the history of this country. And in my view, old-fashioned politics, the same old type of politics that doesn't excite anybody, that doesn't energize anybody, that is not going to be the campaign that beats Trump.
There's Senator Bernie Sanders yesterday coming off South Carolina. Senator Sanders, thanks for joining us this morning. Old-fashioned politics, you talking about Joe Biden?
I could be, yes I am.
But let's talk about South Carolina right now, because, you know, we spoke the morning after South Carolina 4 years ago, and you conceded that you have to do far better with African-American voters, who, of course, one of the core constituencies of the Democratic Party. You didn't improve much yesterday. Why are you having so much trouble with African-American voters?
One second, George. We did. We won the young African-American vote, and we are winning in terms of polling, some national polling. We're actually ahead of Biden in terms of the African-American votes.
More than 60% of the African-American vote last night.
Last night, no, Biden did very well last night, but we did win among younger African-Americans. And I think if you look at the national polling, in some cases we are beating them nationally, and certainly among younger people. We are putting together, George, a coalition, a multiracial, multi-generational coalition of African-Americans, Latinos, whites, Native Americans, Asian Americans. We have the strongest grassroots movement. We are raising more money from the grassroots than any candidate in the history of this country. In order to beat Trump, we are going to need the largest voter turnout in the history of this country. And I don't think you can do that unless you have a message that appeals to the working class and the middle class of this country who have been ignored too long by the political establishment, of which Joe Biden is part of.
You did raise a ton of money in February, no question about that, $46.5 million. But across the 4 primaries and caucuses so far, the Democrats have not seen that kind of increase in turnout you're calling for, the kind of increase in turnout that you say is necessary. They haven't reached the numbers we saw in 2008.
Well, 2008 was an exceptional campaign. That was Barack Obama's extraordinary campaign. But New Hampshire had a record-breaking turnout. Last night was a large turnout in Iowa, where we won the popular vote. We saw a significant increase in young people's participation. And I think, you know, we'll see what happens on Tuesday. But my guess is that we have an excellent chance to win some of the largest states in this country and states all across this country because of the coalition that we're putting together, because of the issues that we are talking about. You know, in America, people understand there is something fundamentally wrong, where we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all, and where we pay, in some cases, 10 times more for the same exact prescription drugs as is paid in Canada or in other countries. So I think the ideas that we have, the focus on climate change, the existential threat to this planet, is what the people of this country want to hear discussed.
You've also called yourself an existential threat to the Democratic establishment. I guess that includes House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrats in the House and the Senate. Don't you need their support to win in November? One of the big pitches that Vice President Biden was just making is that he can help make sure the Democrats hold on to the House, take back the Senate, and that you're going to be a burden for House Democrats and Democratic Senate candidates come November.
That's absolutely untrue. You know, the corporate wing of the Democratic Party, a group called Third Way, attacked me, and they said I'm an existential threat to the Democratic Party. And what I said is, yeah, I'm an existential threat to the corporate wing of the Democratic Party. For too long, the Democratic Party and leaders have been going to rich people's homes, raising money, and they've ignored the working class and the middle class and low-income people in this country. That has got to change. We've got to open the doors of the Democratic Party to millions and millions of people who are trying to get by on $12, $13 an hour, who can't afford health care, can't afford child care, who can't afford to send their kids to college. Those are the people we have to start paying attention to. I've known Nancy Pelosi for a very long time. I'm part of the Democratic leadership of the United States Senate with Chuck Schumer. It is my view that every Democratic candidate for president, no matter who wins this nominating process, clearly I hope it's me, we're going to come together because we all understand that Donald Trump is the greatest threat to this country in the modern history of this country, that he's a fraud, that he's a liar, that he's undermining American democracy. We're going to have Democrats coming together, but the trick is which candidate can reach out and bring new people into the political process who can create the excitement and the energy for young people to come in, I think that's our campaign.
The New York Times reported this week that President Obama has told associates that it could be difficult to unify the party if you're the nominee.
I really don't think so. Look, Trump is such a threat to our Constitution, to our way of life, that while Democrats may have differences of opinion, yeah, I have differences with Joe Biden, no great secret. Joe voted for the war in Iraq. Joe voted for a bad bankruptcy bill. Joe voted for bad trade agreements. But at the end of the day, I have known Joe Biden for a very long time. He's a decent guy. I have no doubt that if I win, Joe will be there. If Joe ends up winning, I will be there. We are going to come together, and President Obama, in my view, he has said this, will play a leading role in helping whoever the Democratic nominee is. We are facing in Donald Trump somebody who is a pathological liar, running a corrupt administration. Every Democrat and millions of independents and a number of Republicans understand we cannot have somebody like Trump win re-election.
The president seems to be going out of his way to help you. He had a tweet last night at 11:45 saying Democrats are working hard to destroy the name and reputation of crazy Bernie Sanders and take the nomination away from him. His allies in South Carolina were encouraging Republicans to go to the polls in South Carolina and vote for you. What is that about? And do you accept his help?
No, I don't accept his help. I'm going to do everything I can to defeat Donald Trump. Look, Trump, you know, I got to tell you a story here, which blows me away, shows you what kind of person we have as president. In the midst of this coronavirus, a real threat to our country and the world, all over the world, governments are trying to figure out how they can deal with this crisis. Do you know where Donald Trump was the other day? He was in South Carolina trying to undermine the Democratic primary. He has no opposition in South Carolina. That's why he was there. How pathetic is it that in the midst of an international health care crisis, you got a president running into South Carolina trying to steal some media attention away from Democrats? But at the end of the day, look, I think some of Trump's advisors have made this clear. They are afraid of a movement. And what our campaign is about is building that multiracial, multi-generational movement of millions of working-class people, middle-class people, lower-income people who finally want us to have a government that represents all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors. And, George, it's not just that we're raising a lot of money. We are. It's how we are raising that money. It's $18.50 is our average contribution. That speaks to the kind of grassroots support we have in this country. Almost 2 million Americans have made that contribution.
Senator, you and your supporters have said the candidate with the most pledged delegates going into the convention should be the nominee. That's a pretty clear contrast with the position you took 4 years ago. Here you are in May 2016.
No. I hope that we will win the pledged delegates. But at the end of the day, the responsibility that superdelegates have is to decide what is best for this country and what is best for the Democratic Party. And if those superdelegates conclude that Bernie Sanders is the best candidate, the strongest candidate to defeat Trump and anybody else, yes, I would very much welcome their support.
If that argument was correct then, why isn't it correct now?
George, that was in May. California, the last primary was in June. And what I said is, at that point, if I can create momentum, and if we win the California primary, then I think superdelegates might want to rethink where we're at. That was before the end of the process. What you're asking me now is if at the end of the entire Democratic process, a candidate, maybe Bernie Sanders, ends up with more votes than anybody else, and we go into the convention, and the Democratic establishment and the superdelegates say, hey, yeah, Bernie won more votes than anybody else. He won state after state after state, but we don't want him. Do you know what that will do to the Democratic base in this country?
But Senator, on several occasions back in 2016, you refused to say that. You refused to say that whoever had the pledged delegate lead should be the nominee.
No, George, I think you're missing the point here. That was before California. After California, after Hillary Clinton won the pledged delegates, I did not go to any superdelegate. It was over. We conceded the election, and that we supported Hillary Clinton. So, you know, that is my point. I'm not being inconsistent with what I said in 2016. But I want you to think about it for a moment. If we go into Milwaukee, into the Democratic Convention, with a lead, having won many, many states, having won the people's vote, and that is reversed at the convention, how do you think people all over this country are going to feel? Do you think really that will give us the unity? You talked about unity. We need unity. If you reject the candidate who has the most votes from the people, and you win it through superdelegates and the Democratic establishment and the corporate wing of the Democratic Party, do you think you're going to have the energy and the excitement and the grassroots movement to defeat Donald Trump? I honestly don't think you will.
Senator Sanders, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.